Oh, welcome back. I'm happy to say the bride rough in has gone fairly well. Now let's move over to the guy here and see if I can keep from getting in too much trouble. So, as I mentioned earlier, on this particular portrait, I'm operating basically on the slap stuff down fairly quickly method and hope you're not too far off, and then refine it just a little bit as I did her. Actually, to tell you the truth, I found myself pretty darn close to accurate on her, and I spent more time tweaking the details than I often do in the acrylic stage. So here I am. Anyway, happy to be working on the guy. And again, if I need to do some cheating to perfect the likeness, I've got extra grid lines all ready to go, some diagonals and so forth that I could draw on my that are on this diagram. You probably can't even see those really fine lines, and I can then I can come in and do fine modifications to get if I find myself not quite accurate enough. How do you know if you're accurate? It looks like the person. Magically, the person in the photograph will suddenly appear on your canvas. It's nice when that happens. Often what happens is like, yeah, in fact, that's the girl, the bride here is pretty close. She looks a little extreme. Do you know what I mean? It's like she's like, here she's laughing happily in the photograph. In the painting, she's kind of going, ah! A little bit of the scream. I wish I could. I won't demonstrate this for you right now because I'd have to move the camera around too much, and I don't mess with it. But many years ago, I was doing a portrait of a beautiful young teenage daughter. In fact, I was doing all three teenage kids, and the youngest girl, boy, I nailed her. It just looked like a perfect likeness, except that it looked like she was going, eek. I'm afraid she was smiling with bared teeth, and it looked like she was going, eek, like she was seeing a mouse. Instead of smiling, it looked like she was eeking, and I couldn't figure out what in the world. Why does it look like she's eeking? So I actually went to a mirror, looked at myself in a mirror, and made the expression that it looked like she was making. And what I discovered was that this spot right here, can you see this? Yeah, in between her two trapezius tendons, I think that's what that is. I had that this area was indented. It was shaded a little too intensely, and when I softened that, then it looked like she was smiling. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it just seemed. It's like, how would you ever figure that out? Like, you figure it out by looking at the mirror, at yourself in the mirror. But that's all it was. It looked like she was eeking because it looked like she was inhaling. And when you inhale, this little bit right here do it sometime. Look in the mirror and go, inhale through clenched teeth. And this sucks in, gets pushed in when you inhale. And that's all that was wrong with it. That was crazy. I always remembered that, what such a tiny change can have such a big effect on somebody's face. Forgive me. I know when I'm doing these videos and when I'm painting and talking at the same time, I talk in such a halting manner. I drive myself crazy so when I listen to it. Anyway, forgive me. Evidently, I can't actually paint and talk at the same time. I just think I can. And so my mind is going back and forth between the two activities very rapidly, and my speech is like it is right now, kind of halting, stuttering. Okay, all this dark line up, that was just the erroneous placement of this guy's head earlier in the day. So I cover all that stuff up. And it's covered up even whiter than that. By the way, I use watercolor pencil to make the lines on the canvas. Because then I can, as long as I'm in an acrylic, painting in acrylics, I can eliminate those lines by rubbing them with a wet brush. Most of them get covered up anyway in the course of doing the acrylics. They get covered up, as you might expect. Okay, let's fix a couple things. First of all, would you notice, please, with me, that here his top, oh, by the way, a couple tricks. Let me back out a little bit. You can see I've got a photograph down here, and I've got this photograph. It's pretty close to exactly straight down. Move them over a little bit. Straight down from that. And I have this straight over. That just helps. So I'm not making my eyes go at angles like this when I'm copying. I can just go straight up or straight down to see the images that I'm comparing to. Okay, so if you'll notice, his top lip in this photograph is exactly horizontal, and it's not in my painting. In my painting, his top lip slants slightly. So let's fix that. That's the kind, just that over and over and over. All those kinds of things is what you're looking for. And then the bottom of his nose is not quite right. Let's fix that. His nostrils turn down at a pretty sharp angle. And his bottom lip also. Anyway, so I just slapped down something really quick, and now I'm coming back and refining the slap down, refining the details. So what do I do if this technique works? What's the next step? Is what I mean to say. What do I do next? The answer is I'm going to draw their figures and all the background, all of it roughed in acrylics. And then when the acrylics are all done, of course, then I come back and do oils on top. And the oils will be fairly easy if I've achieved unbelievable likeness in the and so from the other room I hear the exclamations that my 1-year-old grandson, he just turned 1 a couple weeks ago, and he has learned how to turn the TV on off with a remote control. For days now, one of his favorite things has been to pick up the remote control. The big thing, it's as big as his arm, and point it at the TV. He knows he's supposed to point it at the TV. And anyway, today he just discovered which button to push to turn it on and off. Oh no, we're in trouble. Oh, that's hilarious. Earlier today, he figured out how to go out the screen door unaccompanied. He'd learned that if he just pushes his diaper butt out the door and backs up, he can open the screen door and go outdoors without supervision. Oh my goodness. Everybody's job just got more challenging around here. Let me tell you a little bit about the technique, this process that I'm using to do these faces as well. It's one that I'll indicate, reflect, teach in my book. A 3-step formula, if you will. Of course, all formulas are dangerous because if you use a formula, you might get stuck in a formula. So you have to be careful not to over-formalize anything. But it's better to know a formula than to not know it. Okay, here it is. The answer is, what do you do? The answer is mid-tone over everything, then dark details, then light details. So if you watch me do this man's face, I did this neutral mid-tone flesh over almost his whole face. Then I came back and did dark details, mostly. Now I'm hitting light details. Well, that's a light detail right there. That's a little bit too light. Let's tone that down a little bit. So remember that formula. It works for foliage, trees, hair, any textured, variegated subject matter. 3-step formula. Mids, darks, and lights. In that order is the point. You don't do it in any other order. And again, that's the rule. Every rule can be broken, but if you don't know the rule, you're probably just screwing up. There are times when you can do it in a different order, but you have to know why, so to speak. There has to be a mitigating factor that's making you break the rule. Fair enough? Mitigating factors, the word of the day. Say that 3 times fast. Actually, it's quite easy to say that 3 times fast. Never mind. And having done the light details, now of course I see, oh wait, I need to come back and do, I moved things around, got a little bit more accurate. So I'll come back and do the darks again, and then do the lights again. You always end with the lights. Although all of this is underpainting, so the order is not quite as critical as it might be otherwise. You know, here's another, the front of his teeth right now are at an angle about like this. And in the photograph, the front of his teeth are almost perfectly vertical. So let's mix up some more of this muted green tone. So does that mean, yeah, the top of his teeth? Here's where it's nice to be able to use your left hand. Yay. His mouth is still a little bit too wide open, and that's irritating. So let's close it. By the way, these are very small portraits. I told my client last week when I met with her, the mother of the bride, that if we went any smaller than this, I would charge her extra. This is about as small as I'd like to go. It gets more and more difficult as you get smaller. Bigger would be easier. A portrait this size would be much easier than a portrait this size. Isn't that weird? Sort of counterintuitive. Again, in the acrylic underpainting stage, I only require that I get close. I feel like I've achieved close, and I'm certainly getting close on the guy. Close is good enough in this case. I'll worry about perfection. And basically, when I do the oils, what will I do? Easy. Mid-tone, big brush, over the whole thing. Dark details, light details, and I'm done. That's the ankle. Two things are needed in his eyes. One is this little triangle of darkness right there. An arrow pointing straight that way. Need to get that in there. That's a dark thing. Here's a dark brush. Again, it's nice to be able to use a left hand. And yet notice the death control grip. This is the kind of painting that I usually have seizures about. If you're in one of my classes, right? There's a time for everything. Look at that. Look at that choked up on that brush. Okay. Next, this whole dark mass eyebrow coming down way too far. Isn't it funny how you see things just one step at a time? You can't do everything all at once. I don't care who you are. You cannot do everything all at once. You can really only see, so to speak, one thing at a time. And it's certainly what I'm doing here. So back to some midtones here. Do you notice? Back to some midtones to be followed up by another series, generally speaking, series of darks, and then a series of lights. Yeah, let's get this, cut this back where it's supposed to be his hairline. Here's a funny thing. It is easier to do attractive, beautiful people. It is harder to do beautiful, quote unquote. Everybody's beautiful. I know everybody's beautiful in their own way. But I agree. But you know what I mean. Come on, you know what I mean. There's part of you that goes, even if you, anyway. What is hard about doing beautiful people is that beautiful people are essentially featureless. They have no idiosyncrasies, because the main thing that makes them beautiful is their standardization of their face. They have the proper ratios between everything. And proper is almost average, almost exactly average. It isn't. I've seen lots of experiments in this regard. Is it really average? Very, very close to average. A mathematically or scientifically average face person is very attractive. It may be that there are a few things that set apart people. Anyway, so beautiful people are hard to do because they have no features. They're just average. They look like everybody else. You with me? Now, beautiful people are easy to do because they're average. Because all you have to do is draw sort of a standard face and it looks like the person. Both of these are beautiful people. And it makes it somewhat easy to paint them because I have to render sort of a standard handsome guy and handsome girl, and I've got it. I know that sounds crazy, but there's a big dose of truth right in there. Okay, now I've got this guy's bottom lip curving in an inappropriate manner. A little bit of finger painting there, eh? One of the bad things about acrylics is they don't dry exactly the color. Most acrylics don't dry exactly the color. They darken slightly, which is kind of irritating. Oils do not do that. Oils dry very much more the color that you put them on. When I was a kid, nobody walked around with a 2 or 3 day beard on their face and thought it was cool. That was not in style. To my memory, I'm just babbling here, babbling old man. Do you know when it became in style? I forget the guy's name, but you know who it is. It was when Don, what's his name, in Miami Vice. Don somebody in Miami Vice. Was that the late 80s? He's the one who I first noticed started sporting that look. And then it has been an acceptable look in all the years since. Go check it out. That's where it started. Don on Miami Vice. Until then, this was considered ugly, unkempt. Styles change, don't they? A little corner of dark at the end of his mouth. Let's see if this brush is pretty big for that. Let's see if I can get that in there. Just a dot. And close enough. Once again, his teeth need to be a little bit more vertical. I'm probably boring most of you to tears, but I am giving you an accurate blow by blow of much of what goes on inside the mind of someone who's trying to do portraiture. Not when I'm babbling about Don from Miami Vice, but when I'm talking about what I'm painting. Okay, the bag under his eye, which I added, is now added too much. It took it too far, as is so often the case. In fact, you could say that all of my acrylic, the whole acrylic phase is kind of like taking the whole thing a little bit too far. I will smooth it out, level it out slightly in the oils. Now, his nose, I don't have quite the angle on his nose. Nose is a little bit more pointed than this, but so slight, I'm afraid if I do anything, it'll make it too much. That might be all right. You can really see the difference I made. Look at this controlled grit. I know I like my students are having a seizure. One of the painting in this manner allows me to paint looser in the oil stage and leave energetic strokes. This is a little bit like doing a drawing in charcoal, getting everything right, getting all the details right in a charcoal stage. I'm doing the drawing, if you will. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it. Leave me alone. I think I need to move up this line just a hair. Give it a little sharper chin. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm close enough. Now I'm going to zoom back out, rely more on this photograph to get their bodies in. I might use a little bit of the grid, maybe, to make sure I get the hands at the right height and the feet without having to go back and do it twice. You know what I mean? Good enough. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Hope you'll be back soon.